I gotta be completely honest with you. I don't like this year's NBA season. I don't. Not because Kevin Durant joined the Warriors. It just seems like Golden State's automatically the lock in everybody's brackets to win it all. Like, I don't. And making an NBA predictions video just seems useless because everybody's gonna be like, oh, you're just gonna pick Cleveland and Golden State in the final. Well, maybe I won't. Now, I don't know basketball as much as I know hockey, so I'm going to say these predictions, and I'm not going to have any fancy stats or anything. I'm just going to say what I feel and just who I think wins. And before I say any predictions, I want it understood that these are my thoughts, and these are my opinions. Okay, in the East, Boston took the top spot from Cleveland, which I think is awesome. But unfortunately, they're playing the Bulls squad, and to be honest, out of the 8 teams in the East, I think the Bulls have the best shot in terms of making an upset. Doesn't matter if the Bulls played Boston, doesn't matter if the Bulls played Cleveland, the Raptors, or Washington. I feel like they have a chance in any of the matchups they did. Not to mention then the fact that I think the Bulls are 4-0 against Cleveland. Cleveland has not beat the Bulls this year. So the Bulls are playing Boston, and Boston is the, I guess, surprising number one because Boston doesn't really intimidate me all that much. This is one of the more tougher series because obviously Boston's the 1st seed and Chicago's the 8th seed, but Chicago had its ups and downs all year. And to say they upset Boston, I don't think so. I think Boston's going to win because Boston has been fairly consistent, because that's what I look for in terms of playoff teams. I look at consistency and I look at, okay, this team is now on a cold streak, this team is on a slide, this team needs work, this team is hot, they might do some damage. If anything, Chicago has the potential to go far in these playoffs, and Chicago had the potential to get a higher seed. So that's the thing about Chicago, is that they blew leads, they were injury prone, and to be honest, they're generally inconsistent. So I think I'm going to pick Boston in this one. I'm going to pick Boston in 6 games. Cleveland and Indiana. Even though Cleveland has finished the season with like 10-14 in their last 24 games or something like that, I still think they're going to beat Indiana. Indiana, again, is not really that intimidating. I look at Indiana and I don't think they can do a whole lot against Cleveland. Like, Cleveland would really need to choke the series if they have any chance of moving on at all. I'm going to pick Cleveland in an easy 5 games. I don't see Indiana doing that much. Like I said, Cleveland would have to really shit the bed in order for Indiana to even take this 6 or 7 games. Alright, my Raptors are facing Milwaukee, which is awesome. The moment I heard that news, I was like, yes! Because out of the 4 teams that are 5, 6, 7th, and 8th in the East, we have the best chance to beat Milwaukee, and we drew Milwaukee, which is awesome. The Raptors won the season series, and in those wins, it looked like they were doing pretty good. And Milwaukee, just like Indiana, is not intimidating to me. So I'm going to have to pick the Raptors on this one, obviously. I see it being closer than imaginable because the Raptors don't do that well in the playoffs, because last year their first 2 rounds went to 7 games. And they lost to Cleveland in 6. They took Cleveland to 6 games, which is impressive. But this Cleveland team's a little colder. So against Milwaukee, I think that Toronto will take it in 5, possibly 6. I say 5. Another tough opening matchup, the Washington Wizards against the Atlanta Hawks. I almost said Falcons there. Personally, Washington has been a little cold to end the season in terms of what their record is, not like generally, because I think they were like a 500 team to end the season. The funny thing is that Atlanta loses the games they're supposed to win and then wins the games they're supposed to lose. They came back against Cleveland, and they came back again, what was it, Chicago the next day? I don't remember. This is definitely a tough one. It's a 4-5 matchup, even though Washington had like, what, 7 more wins, 6 more wins. I think Atlanta's going to take this one. I think Atlanta has the power to pull it off, and despite a couple of all-star seasons from a couple of Wizards, I think that Atlanta will take this one in 6. Golden State and Portland. Now, obviously I picked the Warriors, considering that like the first 7 teams of the West were like playoff locks for a majority of the year, and then the 8th seed is just kind of hovering around Portland, Denver, and New Orleans until like the final week of the regular season. And I like how Damian Lillard is just absolutely carrying the Trailblazers. I think that's awesome. But you're not going to beat the Warriors. Like, Damian Lillard is not LeBron James. He cannot do what LeBron James did in the finals last year. So I'm picking the Warriors in 5. I just hate this year's bracket because Golden State's literally the lock to win. And I hate doing this because knowing that if I pick anything other than Golden State, the comments are going to be like, what the fuck? You didn't pick the Warriors! Okay, Spurs and Grizzlies for the 2-7. I'm going to pick the Spurs in 5. Obviously, the Spurs are the Spurs, and as long as Greg Popovich is behind the bench and they keep winning 50-plus games every year like they've been doing, I don't see them losing. So I'm going to pick the Spurs in 5 games. Russell Westbrook versus James Harden. Houston versus OKC. Now, to be honest, I don't know who to choose for this one, because outside of James Harden and Russell Westbrook, who the fuck does it have? Like, who the fuck are on their rosters? To be honest, my MVP candidate is Russell Westbrook because of what he did. Like, not just because of the triple doubles and stuff like that. I think he's overall the best player in the league in terms of, without Russell Westbrook, the Oklahoma City Thunder would have never made the playoffs. There's no way in hell. Now I'm going to get roasted for saying that. All the Oklahoma City Thunder fans are going to be like, what the fuck? Of course, we're like a good team. Yeah, no, you're not. As far as I remember, I don't remember correctly, but like, didn't Houston set like the NBA record for like most 3-pointers made in a season or something like that? That was like a couple of games ago or 20 games ago? I don't fucking know. So my pick is Houston. I'm going to say Houston in 7. I'm going to go all the way with this one. Houston in 7. And then we have the Clippers and the Jazz. Again, just like a couple of the teams with the East, the Jazz don't intimidate me, so I'm going to pick the Clippers in 6. I love what Utah has done. I love their defense. I love the way they play basketball, but I don't see them getting past the Clippers. Like, again, like, not really more so with Cleveland. Like, I wouldn't say the Clippers have to choke for the Jazz to win this one. The Jazz have potential, and I wouldn't be surprised if the Jazz win this one, but I don't think that they will, particularly because the Clippers have a playoff experience and the Jazz don't. That's, again, what I kind of go for. So I'm going to pick the Clippers. Clippers in 6. Okay, so then it would be Boston and Atlanta. Boston, again, is the number 1 seed. Atlanta is the 5th seed. There's something about Boston, just, I don't know, again, like with Montreal in the NHL, something is oppressing me from picking Boston. Boston has a great team. They got great pieces, and I love what they're doing. They earned the number 1 seed. They earned it for sure. But in terms of Atlanta, they have playoff experience. This is a really tough one to call. Like everyone knows, Atlanta has made the playoffs for the 10th straight season. I'm not sure what that is with Boston because, again, I don't know too much about basketball. I just look at scores and read the stats and read like articles when they come up, so I generally know stuff. But in general, I think I'm going to have to pick Boston on this one, but Atlanta has a really good chance to upset them. I wouldn't be surprised if Atlanta goes to the conference finals, but in terms of this series, I think Boston's going to take it in a full 7. I think Atlanta's going to take them all the way to the distance. And then, of course, the matchup that I wanted to happen in the conference final, Toronto and Cleveland. Unfortunately, Cleveland didn't win the East. So now if Toronto advances and Cleveland advances, we're going to meet each other in round 2. And to be honest, like, whenever I watch prediction videos, they're always like, oh, before I start, I'm not biased against the team that I love. Well, to be honest, there's a little bit of bias when I say this. I'm not going to lie, but to be completely honest, when it depends how Cleveland plays against Indiana. If Cleveland continues to play the way they do against Indiana, in terms of how they ended their season with a negative record, I don't know if I could pick Cleveland. But that's the thing, I don't know if I could pick Toronto either, because even under these circumstances, you can't pick against Cleveland. And Toronto, the type of thing about Toronto is that right when we find our groove, that's when we go on like a 4-game losing streak, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, what happened? Well, I thought we had it. So again, Toronto has an easy passage over the Bucks, and Cleveland has an easy passage over the Pacers. And to be honest, it all depends on how Cleveland plays against the Pacers, because if they continue to shit the bed like the way they've been doing, in terms of Cleveland standards, because alright, they've been like okay. Like if you get a 2nd seed, you're an alright team. I know LeBron has been resting the past couple of games, so I'm not going to bring up the fact that we beat them last night, but in all honesty, I think I'm still going to have to choose the Cavs. Like, I want the Raptors to win, and if the Cavs don't get their game up in the first round, I think Toronto's going to make them pay. It's going to have to take Toronto being really good, Cleveland shitting the bed, and a little bit of luck because the referees hate us for Toronto to win this series. So I'm going to have to go with the Cavs because one of those things probably won't happen. I'm going to say Cleveland in 6. Just like last year, they're going to take it from us at home. All right, Golden State and the Clippers. Again, I can't pick against the Warriors. I just don't think the Clippers have what it takes to match the Warriors. So I'm going to pick the Warriors. A couple of years down the road, eventually, the Clippers will find a way to get to the conference final, maybe even the NBA final, because the Clippers have a lot of star talent, but they picked the wrong era to do this in, with Golden State having Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Kevin Durant. I'm going to have to pick the Warriors again in 5. Los Angeles has what it takes to make it go 6 or 7. 7's a little pushing it, so I'm going to say Golden State either 5 or 6, probably 5. And then San Antonio and Houston. Of course, San Antonio being San Antonio. Again, with Golden State, I can't pick against them. So just like them in the terms of that, San Antonio and the fact that they're constant 50-game winners, I can't pick against them. So I'm going to have to pick San Antonio over Houston. Again, I'm not writing off Houston so fast, but only just because it's San Antonio. Houston has a chance. Like, if Houston pulled off the upset, to be honest, it's not really an upset if they win, because they do have a lot of talent, but I just can't pick against the Spurs, so I'm gonna have to pick the Spurs in 6. And then we have Boston versus Cleveland. Now, Boston has home court advantage. And again, like I said with Cleveland, it all depends on if they can pull it together in the playoffs, because for the past couple weeks, Cleveland has not looked like a playoff caliber team. They've been losing winnable games, and they've been blowing leads. Even if Cleveland comes to form, they've just played a series against Indiana, which will never go away. I don't think Indiana has a chance to win, but they will put up a good fight. And then Toronto, who, if I go by what happened last year, Toronto gave them a run for their money. We won games 3 and 4 at home, and everybody thought, oh my gosh, look, the Raptors are actually doing something. So the Boston has an easier path to the conference finals in the sense that Chicago's inconsistent, and to be honest, Atlanta has what it takes, but I just don't see them getting that. Like, I wouldn't be surprised, but we'll see. I think this series will come down to injuries. Like, if the Cavs stay healthy, they're going to take it, but something inside me tells me that sometime along the way, one of the Cavs star players, like Irving or Love or something, will get injured, because LeBron James doesn't get injured. He never does. And as much as I think Boston has a chance to upset Cleveland in the conference finals, especially since they have home court advantage, I can't pick against Cleveland. So I'm going to take Cleveland, but it's going to be a tight series. I'm going to say Cleveland in 6. Boston's years will come, especially if their roster keeps improving. This is just not the year for Boston. Like, this is a really good #1 seed, but in an era where you have Cleveland's dominance, you have Golden State, and you have San Antonio, I don't see Boston getting to the NBA Finals. So my pick is Cleveland in 6 games. And then there's Golden State and San Antonio. Before last year, what was it, like Golden State hasn't won in San Antonio in like 10 seasons or something. And San Antonio definitely has the firepower and the offense and the defense to overturn Golden State. But I don't like picking the Warriors, but I have to pick the Warriors. I can't not pick the Warriors. The Spurs have what it takes to bring down the Warriors, but it's going to take not exactly a miracle, but it's going to take a lot of bounces to go their way. I think with a bit of luck, the Spurs can pull it off, but I can't choose them. So I'm going to have to choose Golden State in 6 games. And of course, Cleveland versus Golden State for the 3rd consecutive year. I don't like it. I do not like it at all. Because of the way Cleveland's played down the stretch and the unsurety of the fact that if they get to the conference final, will they be full throttle? Like, will they play the way they did last year? I say unlikely. But Golden State choked last year. But I say that's because LeBron and Cleveland wanted it more than Golden State. I think Golden State just took their foot off the pedal when they went up 3-1 and were just like, yeah, fuck it, we got this. When Stephen A. Smith on ESPN said that this NBA season is ruined, I completely agree. There's no fun in predicting a bracket when you know practically who's going to win. It's going to be Golden State. But then again, that's what we said last year. When they went up 3-1, literally everybody and their mother outside of Cleveland was just like, oh, come on, Golden State's got this. There's no way. And they blew it. LeBron has potential to do anything. He carried that team last year. So it wouldn't surprise me if all of a sudden they got out of their seats and were just like, guys, this is the playoffs. We need to get our shit together. And Cleveland runs the table. It wouldn't surprise me. Honestly, I have to pick Golden State. I have to pick Golden State in 6 or 7, maybe 7. But Golden State's getting that championship for the 2nd time in 3 years. As much as I don't like it, it's going to happen. To be completely honest, I agree with Stephen A. Smith when he said that the NBA season's ruined. To be honest, that's why I didn't watch too much NBA this year. I wasn't tuned into it as much because when they traded for Kevin Durant, I said, that's it. There's no competition. Golden State's going to win. Like, literally all 30 teams are just like, yeah, Golden State's going to win. So, needless to say, throughout the playoffs, I will be cheering against Golden State, but I can't not pick them to win. And to be honest, that's it, I guess. I don't really have anything else to add other than, like, in terms of the viewership, it's not fun to watch. It's not fun to know. You know what? I'm going to look this up right now. I'm going to look at the odds to win the NBA. championship. See, there it is. Golden State, 5-11 favorites. The next up is San Antonio at 9-1. Like, this is not fun. Anyway, I know I'm repeating myself, so I'm gonna end the video here, but again, these are my opinions. Don't get mad at me for picking Golden State over Cleveland in the finals, because I just can't. As much as I want to pick Boston, as much as I want to pick San Antonio, I'm gonna be cheering for them, but I can't choose them. Not in this day and age, when you have teams like Golden State and Cleveland. Anyway, as hateful as the comments may be, I want to know your opinion. I read every comment, so if you want to comment your opinion down there and call me an idiot for not knowing basketball, go for it. I don't really care. But thanks for watching. I'll talk to you guys later.